All right, we're live. I'm gonna double check this, guys. We're a little bit behind schedule today. I've had every little technical issue that could possibly come up at a time of a stream happen right this moment leading up. So I just want to check my YouTube channel, and yes, we are live. I am there. We are here. So thanks for dropping in. Before we get started, as you can see in today's title, revisiting an old workflow, but doing a little bit of a work on the side as like a case study for a friend's agency. I had to keep it on the hush, but this is somewhat related, so I thought I would kind of fine-tune some skills in this area as part of this stream. So if you haven't caught this type of workflow from me before, you're catching it today. And actually, I've come to fine-tune a little bit of this workflow, so it'll be a little bit different than what I've shown in the past. But if you've been using Midjourney at all, maybe you're coming up with your own prompts, and perhaps you've gotten really good at it, or you just get really decent results right off the bat with Midjourney. However, what I have done is two things. I do have on one side a Midjourney style guide, which is a video I plan on doing in the future, possibly as a stream, possibly as a standalone video, but it's essentially just a glossary of all keywords that work for me in particular combinations to get specific results or consistent results. On the other hand, I have been cleaning up my ChatGPT, and what I mean cleaning up is I had old chats done with 3.5, and I've been migrating that into GPT-4 with some plugins specifically for certain things. So if we look at Midjourney prompt creation, hopefully it'll remember. Sometimes I have to remind ChatGPT that it did it right before, and then I told it did it right and to follow that formula. But you know, we'll start out with a prompt created by ChatGPT. We'll plug that into Midjourney. Maybe we'll do some tweaking, and then I'm really going for like lowest amount of effort in Blender to get something really decent that can use Blender to an advantage on this concept shoot. So let's get started right into Chat GPT. We're gonna ask, I'm creating a futuristic concept shoe for Nike based on the Air Jordan 1. Provide a prompt. I don't know if this will work. Provide a prompt that will allow development in a 3D model. I think if I tell that, it's going to mess up, actually. Provide a prompt that will yield a side view of the shoe. A side view of both the inside and outside of the shoe. Let's see how long it takes to get there. My hunch is that I'm actually going to have to take different images, different iterations. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen quite yet. There it is, ChatGPT at work, and we have Discord on the right. So yeah, my hunch is I'm going to have to grab a couple of different images that look like the same shoe and kind of, you know, as I've said before, sort of rationalize it, right? Like go beyond what just what's there in the image, but actually try to make sense geometrically of what's there to something that's usable. So there it goes. It gives us a couple of options. I don't know why. Oh yeah, it says prompt option 1 and prompt option 2. I've had it happen before where I don't know where it just goes option 4 or option 5. And I don't know if that's because it weeds out options to begin with. So typically, because I rarely do run out of Midjourney credits, or I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, I don't have fully unlimited. I do have a certain amount, but I haven't quite been running out of credits. So I usually just try off the bat what the prompt in Midjourney puts out, because supposedly these plugins are supposed to help come up with great results. And as you can see here, that's not bad. Although it's not a side view. So I figured I would have to tweak the prompt a little bit to get that. So in order to do that, I've figured out that, for example, if we take the first one, yeah, both of these are great. If we take this first one, Futuristic concept shoot inspired by Language 1. Media. We can take out these words that are put between colons, I'm pretty sure. We don't need to establish style. We don't. Yeah, I mean, we can just describe what we want. And, you know, we can keep all these camera settings towards the end. This is pretty good, actually. This top right one I could really work with. I really, really like that one. Let's maybe just get some variations and an upscale on that one already. None of these are truly side views. It's a little bit out of perspective, which kind of messes me up. So I'll work based off of the first prompt. But in order to get a true side view, when it says here composition, capture it with a Canon, whatever, whatnot. So the composition is actually what we want to say is closed composition side view. I've noticed that closed composition will get rid of very harsh perspective lines and really focus in on the subject. I don't want to get distracted by all these camera settings. It's not quite important to this. So I'm actually going to delete all that and delete everything that comes after to see what happens. Okay, and with this one we're creating variations on. That is pretty great. As far as what it'll look like for the inside of the shoe, I suppose the outside of the shoe would probably be pushing outward, whereas the other side would be pushing inward a little bit on that part. And I could just take this strap around the other side and just get rid of the logo. It actually got pretty accurate on the Jordan stamp. Okay, so we see there, that did help a little bit. Close composition side view. It's still kind of coming out with this back to the futuresque style, which is nice. That's pretty cool, actually. Also because I can recreate these materials in Blender. Sometimes when the materials are really complex or the image is really detailed, you want to just use the image itself as a texture to keep that there. But this sort of reflective all over material can be pretty easy to replicate. Yeah, I mean, option 1 and option 3 are best right here on the left. So let's just create some quick variations on those. And out of all of these, they're all pretty similar. I kind of like this grid, this sort of tiling we have on this top left one, and the way it kind of blocks out the shadows and the highlights there, sort of segments them. Although I like the smooth Nike swoosh without the grids on this one. So I'll probably go with this bottom left one with the clean swoosh. And so we'll do variations on 3. And if I have to pick one now to move forward with either of these, yeah, this one's gonna be pretty neat. I like the neon colors at the sole, the sort of glow we got there. Top right is looking best. I mean, top right and bottom left. What I do like, I don't know which one I like better. I guess I like this better with the tag in gray and the label in black rather than standing out like that so much. So let's go with top right on this one. We're just gonna upscale number 2 here. And this is pretty similar to the other shoe, only like different lighting. I like the matte gray that we have going on here for the middle, which this one does not have. It's like almost all reflective. So let's stick with that. And now I gotta pick one out of these, and bottom right. No, we lost our grid. Let's revert back and just upscale that previous one. For up version 3, upscale 3. All right. So there you go. We got 2 shoes we can play off of, and I'm just gonna go by technically which one's gonna be best to reproduce. And as much as I do love this design, I do like this one better. This is more my vibe. And it's going to be easier to translate this into a 3D model, simply because it's got the stitching really really down pack. Although this one does too. The stitching is awfully consistent throughout all the options, which is really interesting. It's getting pretty accurate. So yeah, I'm gonna run with this one. I think this is gonna be the best option here. So let's save our image, and then we'll bring that into Blender. As I save this, I just want to say for everyone who has subscribed in this past week, it's yet another week or I can say thank you for joining the visual mode. We've been consistently getting subscribers every week and the channel is growing steadily. And I really, really do appreciate that. I have been working on some content ideas so that beyond just streaming, which has been a great way for me to just get comfortable with producing the content and being in front of camera, I do plan on doing some shorts and edited videos to put out. I know I've said that in the past and I've followed through lightly. However, it's just been kind of hard for me to get to having a full-time job and whatnot. But I can confidently say now I got a pretty great idea in terms of having a content bank that I can work on towards you guys. And I'll be putting out some polls as well to hear directly from you what it is that you'd like to see from me. So with that out of the way, we can now move into Blender. Jesus, August 22nd. It's almost September. I feel like I say this every month. It doesn't stop to shock me how quickly time passes. So I'm going to work just from side view here. We're going to do File, Import, Images as Planes. And I'm going to go ahead and find my image. There it is. We're going to rotate it on the y-axis. And we got to get into material preview mode here so we can see our shoe. And go ahead and rotate. All right. It's not a fully true side view, but I think it's good enough for me to start working on it. Right about now, I'm starting to realize I probably should have watched some tutorials on shoe 3D modeling just to brush up, because lately I've been doing more cars and a lot more architecture than products or shoes. Well, I've been doing products, but shoes are just so nuanced. So actually, I'm going to make my life even easier because I'm all about an effective workflow and not really trying to show off. So I'm going to search for an Air Jordan in Blender Kit. Yes, it's a little wonky by Pirafon Viriya. Sorry, Pirafon Viriyahirompaibun. Man, if that is your real name, kudos. That is a workout every time you got to write your name down or fill out a form. Yeah, that seems to be the one. This is a cool. I don't know if that's a Jordan. It looks more like an SB, but this is at least a scaffolding, so I don't have to start with a totally blank 3D model. It always helps. So I'm gonna trust. Let's see, what size is this? 0.3 meters, 0.6 meters. That's its location. The size of this thing. Yeah, I mean, if this is 1 meter, the shoe model's looking a little small, not gonna lie. But I'll go ahead and just trust you, Pirafon, for now, on the dimensions of the shoe. So I can modify my image so that it fits the shoe. Oops. All right. And what I'd probably like to do project this shoe design onto this one and then start to modify the model so that the images fit better onto it. So for example, we've got the sole down here and it's got some subdivisions going on, I imagine. Otherwise, why can I not see all the vertices? Yeah, so I'll turn off the subdivisions just so it's a choppier model, and the solidify modifier as well. I'll bring those modifiers back later, but I want to see the raw geometry. There we go. So that I can project that texture on correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and hit tab. We want to bring this over, this sort of neon glow thing, to the sole here, to this rubber portion. So I'm going to go to material. It's got a material set to it. I'm going to open here my shader editor. All right, so all it is a color ramp and a bump node, and then establishing it as white. So I could change the color just right here of the shoe and customize it. It's clearly just a texture, but this is actually fantastic because I can keep that bump, keep that sort of rubbery quality that we have over here in the shoe as well, but just bring the color through here into base color for the shader. So what that's going to take is bringing over here an image texture. We'll use the same, well, I don't know that we want to use the same vector mapping. We might actually just want to project the image on there, and that's going to require us to create a new UV map. So, because here we're using the true UV map of this object in order to map out that bump map. I don't want to mess up the existing material on there because it is looking pretty nice. So, I want to create a new UV map to apply this color without messing up the bump. So to do that, I'm going to go to Data, UV Maps, and then just create a new UV map. All right. Here I can hit Shift A and do UV map and call upon UV map 001. We'll call this futuristic, and I'll do that across the board with all the parts of the shoe so that I know that futuristic is the image being projected onto it. So there we go. We set futuristic on the UV map there, and we plug that through. Sorry, my face is in the way. There we go. All right, and we just select that image. So there we go. And we want to plug that into base color. Now, it's not going to work right away. It's actually looking just totally black. That's probably because it's catching the background. So how do we make sure that it's catching the proper part of the shoe? Well, I first have to select it, and I have to select all these faces that I can see. So if I rotate around, I'm not selecting the other side. Because I'm at a perfect side view, when I just select like this, I'm selecting every face I can see, which luckily is perfectly half of the shoe. Make sure that I don't select any other vertices that might have been peeking out, and I can do that by going into top view, wireframe, and then holding control down to deselect anything on this half of the shoe. Cool. So I've got all the faces selected for just one side of the shoe. Now I want to do U, project from view. And that is basically going to keep that correct aspect and make sure we have that. It's not purely orthographic, so I don't want to set that in terms of the image that we want to use. What I want to do now, after doing that project from view, is go to UV editing. So here we have the shape of our shoe model. What I'll do is, as we've done before, we just scale it, move it into place, and have it fit the colors of this new shoe. So we'll bring this over to the front. Let's scale it down. This is the tedious part. All right. That's lining up okay. Actually, as you could see, the face on this shoe is actually stemming, this rubber piece, this rubber model is actually going beyond this section that's colored and going all the way to the bottom of the shoe. So in fact, I'll undo a little bit because it's not truly to just that color area. It's from where that rubber sole starts all the way to the bottom of the shoe. There might be some tweaking to do here later, although this whole bottom portion is worth mentioning that will be sort of hidden. So what I want to do is get the seams as close as I can. And of course, if I weren't on stream, I'd be much more meticulous about this, but you know, let's just get it good enough for you guys. You get the idea. What's interesting here too is we've got like this ribbing through the side of that bottom sole, and the best thing to do there is to actually model that. So for the stream, I'm just gonna do that as a texture, but then of course it would take a little bit of time to actually get that modeled out. And as part of a project, I also 3D scanned a shoe, tried bringing that into 3D, and for some reason, the sole really messed up the 3D scanner. And I'm guessing it's because of just the way that these sort of fractal or, you know, repeated patterns on these shoes catch the light, it kind of trips out the 3D scanner a little bit. And it actually worked better to do the sole of the shoe separate from the rest of the shoe to then be able to merge those two together. All right, I actually have no idea if I'm doing well or not. Looks like I'm doing okay. So interestingly enough, we also have this strip here on the model. Whoops, deselected. And it's not lining up perfectly, but it is also kind of following that shape. So this strip right here doesn't seem to have catched the material, and I think it's because it's a separate model. Let's see. If I go to face mode and I try to select in here, no, it is part of that model. So that's something I'll have to deal with separately. Either modifying the model or modifying the texture. One has to match the other. And it'll probably have to be, yeah, the texture to match the model. Because here we see that blue line. This blue line should be following this white line here. But we'll worry about that right after we get this overall shape done. Okay. Redo a couple of points there. And then we'll continue moving. Actually, let's see. If I were to line up this break right here, is that where that happens? Yes. So we can see like that blue line is actually where this strip right here in the texture is. Cool. So glad I went with a well-built model. And it's amazing how the AI generated image actually matches the 3D model to this level of specificity. Cool, there we go. And this has got to come up. All right, so we'll follow that blue line with that little channel. Cool, cool, cool. I'll make sure we grab the whole white sole area. And if you're wondering, I'm just using G to move these vertices into place. Okay. Yep, this is all the way up to the white part. All right, there. Okay, glad I caught that. And there we go. So I'd like to say that the sole was the toughest part, but it most certainly will not be. But you know, we'll build from tackle one element at a time, and I'll lay out base practices. Okay, nice. So that's pretty well lined up. It's clearly getting covered by the bottom here. Let's just set this bottom piece here. So we see we have this piece flattened out, but we don't quite see what we need to. And it does kind of break up the model here. If we go to solid view, or sorry, wireframe, we're selecting part of the other side of the shoe. So again, I'll go to flat on the one side in solid view, select the side of the shoe, go to top view, hold control, and make sure that I deselect the other half of the shoe. There we go. So we have just one half right there. Remember, we have to create a new UV map for every portion of the shoe so that we don't mess up our bump. So there's futuristic, and we make sure that that's the one that we're enabled with. And if we go into the side, we want to do the same thing. So we do U, project from view, and there we go. That's the shape of that portion of the shoe as per the view. And we want to go into the material. And this is a frustrating, not so frustrating part. Like we just have to go back to the previous portion of the shoe, copy these nodes, go into that new portion, paste, and then just plug into where you at? Base color. If I go to material preview, we see that that bottom portion of the shoe is no longer black, but it's projecting the image onto it. And I'm naming all of them futuristic, so when I paste that node in, right, I don't need to continuously select a new UV map. I just have to be creating them. So I think there was a way also to, if I select multiple to do link and copy UV maps. So we create all the UV maps for all the shoes, but I'd rather be careful here and just go one by one. So we'll go back into our UV editing area. We've got the bottom of the shoe here, and we'll just fit it into the lower portion here. So if I can, I'm gonna scale this up. And yeah, the Midjourney image is a little bit in perspective, and the shoe over on the right is in perfect orthographic. So that does, you know, give a little bit of an irregularity here, but also neither the AI generated image nor the 3D model I have here are perfect representations of the same shoe. So, you know, some artistic license that I'm taking out here. Let's see if I can do these two sections together, sort of. And this top portion here of the shoe is glowing. So I am going to set that up right now. I've seen, you know, I don't know if this will work for my stream, but I've seen other people who stream Blender, they just keep their view in rendered mode, which, yeah, I should save. In case I can't handle that. I don't have a 40 series yet. So we'll make sure we set that to GPU. Make sure we throw in a light into our scene, so y'all can at least have some visual candy as it seems like I do nothing. Okay, there we go. Ah, something happened. We lost our image, it seems. But I have it here on the left. Why is it showing up as purple? Not showing up as purple here. So let's go back to UV editing. Strange. I shouldn't be showing out purple. We should be showing our true image. Maybe let's open it up again. There it is. So where did you go? All right, there it is. That's that's probably just a little glitch on my side. All right, there we go. So we're transforming this shoe on the right into the shoe on the left. Let's keep going. We're just at this bottom portion here. I'm gonna, there we go, do a select all just to quickly see what I was working on. And I'm only gonna worry about the one side that's facing the camera in this instance. It could be argued that if I am only using one side, which is not the idea, ultimately the idea would be to continue to develop this model to fit its texture more and more as I continue to work on it. But for the sake of a rendering, I could just mask out this piece here and then create some other elements that maybe add light to it and whatnot. Let's bring back some of those modifiers, see how this is doing. Okay, so we've got that bump texture, and we've got this other texture. This doesn't look like a bump. It's a wave texture on the bottom. However, on the shoe on the left, it is also a bump texture. I mean, you don't really see it too well, but you do see it. It's not a wave. So we don't want this Musgrave and wave texture this person's created here. I'm gonna copy the bump we have on the rubber on the other side. So let's grab the noise and the color ramp, copy that, and bring it into this other portion of the sole. And then we'll just delete these textures to introduce our noise texture. Ooh, what did we use? We used factor, not color. Oh, just kidding. We used color. Yes, so color goes to height. All right, now we got the noise going on at the bottom as well. It looks like this top of the shoe is overhanging way too much over the sole. I brought back my modifiers. So this is just an error in the model, it seems. I'll grab some of these vertices and I'll just pull them into the shoe. There we go. I mean, The stitching isn't moving with it, which is a shame, but that is more correct. I missed out a point over here. All right, it's not perfect. It's gonna require some cleanup. Yeah, this is a weird way to go about the stitching, guy. No modifiers on this. It seems like maybe this is just projected onto the model or moved onto it, but it's fine. We're getting some weird shadows at the moment. Actually, I'm just gonna do away with the stitching because there's a better way to go about stitching, which is through textures, not models. Let's just move this one point into place. You know what? Let's fully set up. I'm gonna keep the render on the top right for y'all, and I'm gonna work on the bottom left. Okay. Let's move this a bit off more to the side. Cool. All right, so I was trying to fit this a little bit. Let's get rid of those modifiers. We'll just hide them. There we go. I see all my vertices. And let's just tuck them into the shoe a little bit more. There we are. I moved something here a little bit too much. It should be tucking behind the rubber. Yeah. There we go. And we got a rogue point over here. Okay, that is looking so much cleaner now with the sole. Okay. I'm gonna have to do the same thing to the front section. It looks like it's hanging out over the sole. Let's get rid of the modifiers here. Pull these back in. Okay, that's looking a bit cleaner for now. All right, now this top one here. This one's the one that's emitting light when we look at our shoe. So we want to be able to use this color and actually have that light come through. We have this yellow happening right above the bottom portion of the sole. So let's just modify a little bit how that's mapped. If I hit tab on this object, it should reveal the last images that I was working on in this view, or on this portion of the model. However, it seems like I might have lost it. So we'll go into face mode, select all the faces on this side. There we go. So we brought back all of our faces, and I'm just gonna grab this whole bottom portion, and I'm gonna move it up until I see the yellow creep in a little bit more on the right side on the material there. Oh, just kidding. Moving it down so it stretches a bit more. Okay. And then we take this material and we're going to use that color. We're going to plug that into emission. But before I do, well, let's just go ahead and plug that in. If I plug it into emission, it's not going to emit light. Like if I hide this, right, this is now glowing. We don't have any light, but it's the actual thing. However, because it's going into emission and we have our emission strength, the brighter I make this part, the more it goes to pure white, right? Which is not what we want. We want to keep that color. So in order to keep that just a little bit of glow, but keep some color, we have to introduce a contrast node right here, brightness contrast. And we'll just increase the contrast so it kind of saturates a little bit more. And if I increase the brightness, you know, I have to increase it way more for it to be taken to pure white. But at least here with the contrast, we keep some of that color in. It's maybe a bit of too intense. Let's bring it down to 0.2. That's fine. All right. So again, we're only going to be seeing this happen on one side of the shoe. What's up, General 8? See you there in the chat. You're almost at 1K subscribers. Yeah, man. We're getting there. We're getting there. 920, I think, last I checked. I know the live streams work better for Twitch. And yeah, the purpose of the channel has really been for me to hone in these skills. So the purpose of doing those shorts and those videos I mentioned earlier in the stream, if you might have missed that, if you didn't sign in, is to start growing the channel. You know, I've been getting a lot of great feedback from the viewers that have dropped in on the streams, on the streams. And yeah, I've come up with a strategy for how I can provide value through shorts and through videos. It's just a time thing, man. I got a full-time job, I do projects on the side, and this streaming thing is just for fun. So I'm just happy y'all are here. I'm happy anyone shows up. Okay, let's move on past the soul. Let's start working on this. Well, I guess we shouldn't move completely past the soul. Let's grab this little channel here where our thing is hanging out. I keep working out of the rendered view. I'm gonna work here. It's like calling to me. So let's turn off these modifiers. Let's find that little channel, this one here. I'm gonna do Alt click to try and select the channel, but it won't let me. I suspect there is another model hidden here. Oh, yep, and I had just selected it. Okay, so there's this portion of the shoe that is erroneously intersecting with the sole. So what I'm gonna do is, let's see if I can't just get rid of it. Can I go into side view, select this bottom, all the edges, and just get them out of my way. Not quite. Let's go back to this, turn on the modifiers, that beefs it up. We still have this inner channel and it's showing up as black. It is part of the same model. Let's see. What am I missing here? You know what? I'm just gonna duplicate it. I don't want to have to bother moving it back into the right place. I'm just gonna duplicate it and see. We have a channel. Is it just an edge? Is that why? Might have just been some faces that I missed. So let's go to the original. Oh, you know what? That was smart. Instead of duplicating as a new object, I should have duplicated with Alt-D, moved it down as a new instance, so I can work on it over here. But since it's an instance, I can do whatever changes I want. Whoops. And it'll update on the original, and then I can just delete the duplicate. So let's just try and, you know what? I could select one of them, hit Shift G, select everything with the same material, which should be, yep, material 001. Man, this is a weird model. All right. Yes, this face has the black material. So now we'll do Shift G material. There we go. So now I can hold Control and deselect everything that has that material. I go to top view. I go back to side view. Generally, thanks for that, man. Time is the biggest challenge too. Yeah, dude. Time management takes a lot of freaking work. I mean, it takes, you know, setting out a schedule is one thing. Not letting life get in the way and respecting that schedule and staying healthy and everything to do to respect that schedule is a whole other story. But, you know, I just don't have, I tried doing editing and I've just realized how much time that takes. And I don't want to just put out videos that are poorly edited. I want to be... Okay. We'll switch this material over to material just standard. Oop. Undo there. Okay, I see what I could do. I could go to top view. Move this over this way. So annoying. It's just like these little black strips right here. You know what? Let's just change all of that to material, which has material 010, material 10. All right, so we'll select this black material, Shift G, select everything with the same material. All this because I didn't want to model the whole shoe myself. Okay. And we will shift that over. Oh, I realized what happened. This never got projected with everything else. Okay, so I need to select these faces right here. Maybe I could do an alt click to select that whole band. There we go. Go into side view, hit U, project from view, and now we've got the strip here, and that needs to line up with the blue line. Okay, we figured it out, y'all. Okay. And this is also something we're gonna want to have a glow on. And bring this whole section down on it. Okay, we've also got these underneath images. So we gotta alt click those as well. Alt click shift, select that whole strip around. And then we'll go into top view, do U, project from view. We've got the footprint here. However, I'm just gonna kind of cheat and turn this 90. Now we've got the effect that we want. Cool. And then this bottom portion of the sole is already mapped to the sole of the shoe, but I do want to just brighten it up a little bit because it is very, very dark. We want it to show up a little bit like the top piece. So we'll do, again, into the node, brightness, contrast, and just bump up that brightness and the contrast since we're upping the brightness. Okay, that's looking a lot better. I'm gonna fix this bottom portion here, just moving that up a little bit. There we go. All right. Cool, now we move on to making everything else chrome. So the Nike swoosh, man, that's not a good one. We're just gonna get rid of that. And the stitching. And we need a Nike swoosh that replaces it. So let's bring back our image, or we've got it right over here. We're gonna trace that. So I'm gonna go into side view on this one, go to material preview, and let's trace this swoosh. So we hit Shift A, we're gonna create a plane. We're gonna rotate that plane so it's flat towards camera, and then make it really, really small. So we've got the beginning of our swoosh. I'm gonna bring this in front of the shoe, make it small, and move it over to the start. Cool, so we got our swoosh, got it right there. I'm gonna hit tab, select those vertices, and there we go. And I'm just gonna start hitting E to extrude out and scale in the Z axis, because it does get a little bit bigger as we go further. There we go. I wanna cover the area that has a little bit of stitching just so I catch that when I project this material over. So E, send it out, S, Z, move it up, E, put that into place, S, Z. All right. I'm gonna start rotating here. And then S, I'm gonna need a lot more segments here, and I'm gonna have to start moving vertice by vertice. So I'll hit E again. Okay, let's take it all the way. So this right here is my endpoint, and now I'll start adding loop cuts. So maybe I'll just, as I have a loop cut going on here, I can hit right click to just have it snap to center, and then I'll move this one out here, this one right in there. Control R, click, right click, so that it snaps to the middle. Nice. Control R, click, right click. Yep. I am tempted of doing that middle loop cut too, just for topology's sake. But for now, that's fine. Okay, I want to add 2 more just to get that detail right here for the curve. All right, and similar to other geometry in this model, I'm now going to add a subdivision. So hit tab, go to our modifiers, and hit subdivide. Where are you? There we go. Subdivide. So that rounds everything out a little bit, kind of smoothens it. We did lose our peak here. What I can do is hit tab and then select that vertex, hit N, go to my crease settings, and then just increase the crease so it meets that shape a little bit better. And same thing over here. I'm gonna do that actually for the edge. So I'm gonna select edge mode, select this last edge, and for the edge data, just increase the crease. That's not helping. Mean bevel. Well, I'll just add a loop cut. Was it GG? Yeah, if I hit GG, I can just move along the faces and bring that closer. Yeah, I don't want it to be fully flat. So I'll just bring it closer. And there we go. We've got our swoosh. Now, similar to the rest, we do tab A to select all our faces. And this is what it looks like right now unrolled on the top left over the image. But if I hit U, project from view, there's our swoosh. And now I just got to match it to the photo. Now this should match as I have it on the right, as I did just trace it over the model. But it doesn't look like the UV perfectly goes there. So I'm scared to rotate around this. Is it totally distorted? No, it looks all right. I am gonna have to wrap it over around the shoe. That's fine. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, just make sure that the UV matches over the texture, over the image. And you'll notice it's not doing anything yet. That's because I should click here and go to Material 10, which has the image. And I'm just gonna use, oh yeah, I need to create that New UV map here called Futuristic. Okay, there's our chrome swoosh. Nice. And am I happy with how the texture is lining up? It could be cleaner. Yeah, I like some of that relief. Okay, so let's just keep that around just in case. I'll do Alt D and copy that over the shoe. Gotta go to top view and make sure that's over on the right hand side. Why can't I? Oh yeah, I can't see it because it's flat. All right, now this is a bit of the tricky part where I need to go edge by edge. Or not purely like edge by edge, but if I select this last edge and I set my proportional editing and set it to sphere maybe, I'm moving everything, but if I scroll as I'm moving here, there we go, I can move some other edges with it. Of course, I should have moved it in the x-axis. I still have that face selected. Maybe let's go to top view and we'll do G. All right, there it goes. And we'll just wrap that around. So we got this edge. We'll grab this edge. And grab both these edges together. There we go. Yeah, I suppose this is why I wanted more loop cuts. X and then Y, there we go. So it wraps just around the shape of the shoe right there. I feel like it should be sitting higher. Yep. This is one part of the shoe. It really has to come out right. Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna bring that close and I'm gonna just add another loop cut to it right there and then move that portion out to fix it up. There we go. Let's switch over to edge mode and just start moving this vertical edges into place. I would shrink wrap this onto the model of the shoe. However, I just don't fully trust that shoe model. So let's just get this like sort of sculpted out. Okay, now this whole thing I should move together. So let's just select all these edges, including the last one. Let's move all that together. Looks like I should rotate, not that way, this way. Shoes are so nuanced. Hopefully just having this like photographic will kind of help me. This sort of photographic texture on it will make it seem like there's more detail than there actually is. Let's do a loop cut here. Okay, you've got our chrome swoosh on there, as we can see on camera. And I think the rest of it, I can kind of just switch all these to a chrome material. Although I do want this stamp. So in order to get that stamp, maybe let's just bring the actual Jordan stamp in. Oh, I already saved this file. Yeah. See you, General 8. Sorry I missed your goodbye message, but if you're dropping back in, You've been around a while, man. You know I'm super grateful to have you. Cool. Always appreciate a little chat, a little comment, questions into the chat box. Anybody else who drops in, feel totally welcome to. All right, we're close. Let's bring back these modifiers. So the shape of the shoe fixes up a little bit. All right, let's add a solidify to the swoosh. So it's got some thickness. There we go. All right. Now we need white laces. So let's select the laces. Make them white. Let's select this portion of the shoe and make it chrome. So we'll go over to Blender Kit and we'll search for materials, chrome. Bam. Car chrome. Yes, that is the type of chrome I want. Bam. This white should also be chrome. Yeah, basically, I kind of made life easy on myself here by just picking almost a fully chromed out shoe. Oh, wow. The reflections of the glow. Well, this shouldn't be there. I don't know if that's causing the reflections. Oh, it was. But that's all right. I know it'll still pay off in the end, so. I suppose I also want the Nike swoosh to be chrome. So let's just switch this material over and make it chrome as well. And let's bring back our light. So in this scene, we kind of have like, it's sort of a rectangle light all the way up at the top. But then we also have a blue light somewhere in the scene. So let's just move this over here. I'll duplicate that light over and away. And turn that light blue. So we get some blue reflections on there. What's going on with this? It's chrome. Yeah, it is chrome. Let's add another subdivision here on the swoosh. Well, let's render out with 3 subdivisions, or maybe 4. Okay, let's pick this part, and this part should also be chrome, but also it shouldn't, because this actually shouldn't all be one model. We want this top portion here to be white, so I'll grab this top edge here. Suppose through edge mode, alt click, I get all that, shift D, so I have that top piece. Well, those are just curves, so, but that is what it is. It's just curves with a solidifier. So I'll extrude down. Bam. There we go. Oh, and I want to separate it. So we'll just hit A, separate by loose parts. Hopefully, yep, that just keeps us to 2 parts. I can bring that back on top. Make this chrome. And then make this top piece the white material. And we also want to bevel that or smoothen that. So let's go over to our modifiers. We've got subdivision and solidify. So then let's add a bevel. There we go. Just round that out a little bit. Oh, you know what? My background should be pitch black. We also got another white light in the back. So let's duplicate this one. Otherwise, with no light, we're not going to see the chrome. There we go. This one should not be a point light. It should be, I don't know if I want to get into like really mimicking the full effect here, but if we make it an area light, that's really what it is. Because we should be getting a reflection of a rectangle onto the shoe. It's a much bigger light, and it hits more onto the back than it does the side. That's kind of almost there, and we'll make it way softer. Okay. Do I like this chrome material? Let's see. I think there's probably a better one. Let's see. I'd hate to have to replace all the chrome I already placed. Let's move on from that. Let's just make everything that one material. Chrome. Control L. Link materials. Where's our blue light? We gotta move that so we can celebrate the shape of our shoe a little bit better. Alright, that's looking more correct. Of course, the stitching does a lot of work here for us. Okay, I've saved this file several times now. Save Blender file. Cannot save file. Save as. All right. Finally, it's saved. Okay. So wherever this weird portion, showing the shape of the shoe there and adding in the stitching as a material. So this requires to do something similar than what we did earlier for the color. So I'll go to side view here. Or really, I mean, if we could just go to UV and then it says here auto map, we'll create a new one. This is the one we want to work with right now. And we'll call this stitching. Bam. So with stitching, we'll do tab, A, and we'll do U, and we'll do unwrap. Boom. So there's that whole section of the shoe unwrapped. Okay. What we want to do though, is we want to bring in an image of stitching. So we want to have that placed in for this material. So here's our chrome material, and over into bump, which would be here under displacement, we'd want to add in a stitching effect. So we'll do bump. We got to place an image here for this normal. We'll do UV map. And want to specifically use the stitching UV map. All right. And so we need an image here, which is our image texture. And this image, we plug in color into height, and nothing happened even though it refreshed. But in order to do stitching, we'll hit open and then we find an image of stitching. So if I am not mistaken, I have a stitching image. Or we could just find one. Let's see. We could search for stitch bump map free. Hey there, EM. Thanks for dropping in a message on the chat. Always happy to have you. I found it. Okay. Perhaps not quite. All right, it's not perfect. I'll probably end up replacing this later in this model, but for the sake of showing it off in this stream, I'll work with this. So we need an image of stitching. So if we go into resources, I'm going to keep mine into, where's my 3D stuff? Materials. Oh, right here, brush fabric stitches. How come I couldn't find this earlier when I searched for stitching? Ah, and we got a crash. All right. We'll bring this back up. It's just repeating a technique I've already used in the stream. This is just where I want to cap it off. So we have it documented here. And we could do a part 2 on this tomorrow. Kind of cleaning up this model and seeing what other work needs to be done to really bring this to be feasible. So, okay, there we go. This is where we had left off. Let's start with the image texture. And we'll bring in that stitching. So I'm going to go into where I have that saved. Okay, we crashed again. All right, let's bring Blender back. And rather than doing that whole preview that I had just done, I'm going to just look it up over here on the right. Okay. All right. And oh, because these are Photoshop files. These are heavy. Okay, I'm going to just bring in this JPEG. So the file that I want here for the material is doing an image texture. And let's go back to where that was. Materials, fabric stitches. And I want brush fabric stitches 08 flat. 08 underscore flat. Where you at? There it is. Okay. All right. And what this looks like is just this, right? It just looks like stitching. So the whole point here is to actually have the faces that should have the stitching land right here, right? So ideally, if I go over to the shoe, you know, this geometry should follow up where it has the stitching. However, we see that this face is actually maybe the one that should take it. If we look at our main photo right over here, we have to see what surface is on top and laying down the stitching. So, right, this piece here in the back with the heel and this part on top gets stitched over with that middle portion and the Nike swoosh stitches over that. So we've got that piece selected here, so we should have some stitching. Actually, we see it right here from the previous model, but we're gonna get rid of that. Hit tab, and then hit A. We wanna do a new UV map for this one called stitches. Okay. Using the same material here, we're going to use the UV map we just created. Just select that, stitches. Make sure you can see that. And we're going to plug that into vector for that image. Okay. And then this is going to go into a bump node. You don't need to put node. Everything here is a node. We're going to put color into height. And we're going to put normal into normal. All right. So that messed up because it's all over the place, right? We accidentally put stitching all over this model. We didn't want to do that. We want to just select the faces that are going to take the stitching. So in order to see this a little bit cleaner, I'm going to take off the modifiers. Okay. Hit tab. Here's the faces that want stitching. So I'm going to select those faces. All right. Actually, I should have a loop cut here. Perhaps not. There we go. We're going to have this stitching come up into these faces as well. This one doesn't take stitching. It's only the edge faces that'll take the stitching. And if I look at my reference image, no stitching on the bottom. Actually, this blue glowing line is the stitching for the sole into that middle portion. But it's just this section right here of stitching for the back panel that I'm going to show right now. So just these faces that I have selected, they're all right here. They're all purely flat, which is not okay. We want to hit U over here and we can do project from view. Now we have that same shape, right? Lined out here. However, we want to use this neat plugin called UV squares. Really, really cool. So what we can do here is we do 2 square grid after having selected all our faces. 2 square grid. And it's going to square out every single one of those faces. Why do we want to do that? Well, because now, say I select this whole row. I go into face mode, select this whole row, right? It's going to move connected with the other faces, but I'm just going to focus on placing that one over the stitching. And this is where topology really, really matters, because we see this stitch now is like writing up the middle there. So it should be going on the other side. There we go. And these faces should be much larger. Okay. It's getting a little bit better. So what we're seeing here is this, right? This is that stitching bump. If I make this even bigger, we can have it show up right there. And this is what I meant, right? If we want to introduce another loop cut right here, that'll help us out because, in fact, all these other faces should not be showing the stitching. So what I'll do at this time is actually hit A, go to material. This one's called car chrome. I'm going to duplicate it and call it car chrome stitch. Set this back to just normal car chrome. And then for the faces that I do want the stitching, right? So all these materials with car chrome, I'm going to just delete this. So it's just normal chrome. But for these faces that should be taking stitching, I'll select them now. So let's just work with this section right here first, and we'll do car chrome stitch. Oh, just kidding. Undo. We get back to, oh, just kidding. Let's switch this all back to car chrome. We want to add a new material slot first. Okay, so we have these faces selected. New material slot. In that material slot, we hit car chrome stitch, and then we hit assign. And now we have the stitching only on those faces. So it's still getting a little weird because we're getting like this extra gradient out there that we don't want. It's going to take a little bit more work to get that cleaned up. And it's basically just a matter of masking out really everything that's outside of this one right here. I could also kind of cheat it. Let's see, I can cheat it right here by doing maybe a color ramp, so that if I push the white over, nope, push the black over, aha, there we go. There it is. That's clean. So all I'm doing there is really using a color ramp to increase the contrast so that all that remains is this little piece right here, and we eliminate the rest of the detail in the image by basically just making pure white. What that looks like here, we can preview it if I plug it into color. There we can see everything is black and we have a little bit of gray over where the stitching is. So actually if I were to push this back a little bit, there we go. We have that come back a little bit brighter and that should make it even stronger. Now I'll unplug that from color and we've got our stitching there. And this is what it looks like when it's rendered and when all our modifiers are on. There we go. We've got a stitching line right there. What could be cool too, well, that's even trickier because the original image also shows that stitching in red a little bit, or it shows like a little bit of a red bleed in between those panels. But that takes another level of modeling that we just don't have time for this stream. So yeah, no, kind of a long one today. Didn't intend it to be. It was just kind of another little experiment. Shoes are very, very detailed, very, very nuanced, and very, very difficult. And even though I did start off from a base model, you can see there's quite a little bit to pay attention to. And would I, work straight off of a Midjourney image into Blender again? Honestly, I've been messing with an app called Gravity Sketch. I had used it way back in the past, but I kind of picked it up again after attending some of their webinars. And I think maybe I'd take that as an in-between step between Midjourney and Blender. Because doing all this modeling and sculpting in Blender, yeah, it's doable. And I think if I put more hours, I could be faster at it. But I find that just tracing an image is a lot easier with the iPad, with that app on the Gravity Sketch. You essentially just start modeling out all these different surfaces by drawing on the iPad, and you're drawing in 3D. And then you can bring that into Blender and make it, all the better. You know what's going to make this really cool is if I delete these white lights and I instead just add in a torus. Right. You're like, why a torus? Well, I'll mess with its shape a little bit. There we go. And I'll give it a material so that it's a white light, basically. There we go. And that just looks so much better. And you get some really cool reflections on the shoe itself. So there you go, guys. That's it for today's session. Stay tuned for more coming up tomorrow on a new stream. I think we might pick this one back up and choose to do a few other aspects to the shoe, a few other details. Maybe even just throwing in some more lighting effects, right? And doing some broken up more sections. I do think it's interesting to incorporate AI into the workflow in this way. Although clearly this is just a demonstration in the stream, I'd take a lot more refinement in between creating an AI generated image and actually going into 3D. I think there should be a few more steps to kind of work this out before you just start working on it. But yeah, again, always here testing out different techniques that can be useful for design workflows. So if you enjoyed this, I hope you find it inspiring to kind of start testing out these tools and challenge your own workflow, try new things, You never know how you get inspired, you never know how you come up with new ideas. And I think trying out new software or trying out different ways of using the softwares they use on some free time for some fun experiments or fun projects is always a great way to push yourself as a designer. So if you like this, consider giving me a subscribe. Thank you to everybody in the past week who subscribed. I love having you here. Again, got some big plans in line for the visual mode, so stick around for that. And I'll see you on the next stream. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.